Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, Christ the King family. I'm here today with Katie Sheppard. Katie is our new Director of Advancement. It's Friday afternoon, July 22nd. We're sitting here in the O'Neill Center, and as we've been doing the last few people that we brought on to the staff, we've been using this video medium to kind of do an introductory video, and this gives us a chance to get to know our new folks a little bit better. You're going to be seeing Katie around more and more. See, Katie, you started, what, about 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago,
Yeah,
right
2
after
weeks
the
ago.
4th of July.
That's right. So Katie's still just getting started. She's got her office all organized, it looks like. When I walk in, anyway, it looks very organized, and she's ready to go. She's already really talking to a lot of people around the parish, getting to know what's going on in our parish. So first of all, just welcome Katie to the staff, and we're glad to have you here.
Thank you, and I am so happy and blessed to be here.
Well, great. So, you know, what we do with these is just try to give you an opportunity to share your story. So maybe we could start with your childhood and where you grew up and your family of origin, and kind of just tell us a little bit about how you grew up.
Sure. Well, I'm not from here, so we're recent transplants from New York most recently, but I grew up in Connecticut, so I'm a New Englander.
Well, you don't sound like a Kentuckian. So,
so from Connecticut, and I went to Catholic school, and as you know, my parents sent all my sisters and I to Catholic school.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really
all
have
sisters?
All sisters, three
Okay.
older sisters. I'm the youngest, yes.
all right.
And so, you know, I guess I really do fit that definition of a cradle Catholic.
Cradle Catholic. All right, there we go. Cradle Catholics. All right. Very good.
So I think you have those moments throughout your childhood and young adult life that are more impactful than others when, of course, looking back.
Right.
So, I guess I vividly remember being in 5th grade, and we had a nun. We still had nuns back then, and she kept talking about her calling. And there I was, little 5th grader sitting. I remember where I was in the classroom, and she kept saying, this is where I was when I was called. Now, just let me paint the picture. She was old.
Right.
She had the, I don't want to offend any of our sisters out there, our wonderful and beautiful sisters, but she was older. She had the black habit.
Sure.
She could be a little testy at times, and so this was my vision at 5th grade, because our Catholic school started at 5th grade, of what a nun was. And I remember right then and there I prayed, God, please don't call me. Please don't call me, because I felt like it wasn't up to us, right? He was, if he wanted us, he was going to call us.
You, right?
And right then and there, I made this kind of pact, right, of I will be a really good person. Like, I will serve you in whatever other ways you call me, but just don't call me.
In the 5th grade.
In the 5th grade.
That is...
So that was kind of one of my first memories that stand out. And so I think God's been trying to reach me from 5th grade on. And so I went to Catholic high school, and regret not going to a Catholic college. I think at that point I'd had enough of the uniforms, and looking back, those are kind of your formative years, right? I think it would have been such a great foundation for entering into an adulthood, to have that kind of independent, faith-filled experience.
Right.
So I guess you could say, like most people in college, I fell away from the faith a bit. I didn't go to church during college, yet still affiliated with being Catholic, of course. And
so you don't felt like you left the church. You just sort of went on
a
suspended and a sabbatical,
right? It was a spiritual sabbatical, somewhat.
Okay.
But I had a roommate who was of the Protestant background, and there was something about her, right? She was a really good friend. She would, on her own, go to church every Sunday, invited me to come sometimes, and I would. She was always, kind of furthering her spiritual life, reading books, engaging in conversation. And whether she knows it or not, and I think I've told her, but I probably need to tell her again, she was really kind of a guiding light for me. And so then, entered into young adulthood. I did ROTC, and so that's how I paid for college, and so I entered the Army. And when I entered the Army, I was in a relationship and was engaged. And you know, in the Army, you're not going to be able to stay together unless you're engaged and then married and then sent to the same duty station.
Right. Now, did you in your ROTC in your Army? What was your specialty, or what did you do in there in the Army?
So you don't really have a specialty when you're while you're a cadet.
Right.
But mine was medical service corps. So they kind of take this formula of your your grade point average and your performance, and you get to rank the different branches that you want, that you're willing to join, or you're desiring to join. And so I was very fortunate that I was a medical service corps officer, and was sent to Fort Belvoir, Virginia, and got married very soon, right out of college.
Wow.
So,
okay. And then now I know you ended up in the legal field of it. How did that all come about?
So I think I always knew I wanted to go to law school, but didn't want to go, didn't want to delay. You can get an educational delay. So, I was able to get the majority of my undergraduate degree paid for, which I'm so thankful for. Yeah. And then you could have gotten an educational delay and gone right to law school, but that would have meant, I incurred all of that debt. And so, that's not something that I wanted to take on, because, to me, honestly, and being able to make those choices and be free from debt was really important to me. And so I had a mentor within the ROTC community, and that's Reserve Officer Training Corps, whose wife was a JAG attorney. And so she talked to me and she said, well, after a couple years, you can apply for the Army to send you back to school. And that's what I did. And so the Army ended up sending me back to school. And I went to George Mason Law School, and the rest is history.
And then when you got your law degree, though, then you owed the Army a period of time that you had to practice, or
that's right.
The career in there.
Yes, that's right. So, and every time, I entered in thinking I'm going to do this for 4 years, and then I'm done, and then I'm in 18 years now.
Wow,
so, yeah.
Wow. And what's your status now in terms of the military?
So I'm a reservist. So yes, I got off active duty after 12 years, and still serve as a part-time soldier, and I've got 2 years till 20.
Okay, so you're in the Army. You're doing this the medical aspect or medical part of that. How about we always talk about our faith in terms of we all grow as cradle Catholics. Yes. We have sort of the faith of our childhood.
Yes.
And then your story is not uncommon. People go away to college, they drift away from the faith, maybe for no particular reason. They just get involved in life, and the faith just wasn't super important, so it sort of drifts away. Yeah. But you obviously, at some point, had a sort of a reawakening or a reconnection, maybe partly through this friend that you talked about. But how did that come about? What was that part of your life about, or like?
Well, I think those early formative years, it was Catholic school education, faith of friends and family, but they plant these seeds, right? So you've got those seeds growing. And so, life, in many ways, like you said, life kind of brings you away. I was still on that sabbatical, and life has a way of bringing you right back. So anyway, I had experienced a divorce. So after, we were in Fort Hood, Texas, and had our first child, and just kind of went through a divorce, and that unlike any other experience, just kind of just brings you to your knees. Literally brings you to your knees. And so here I was literally thinking, wow, like, goodness gracious, I've gotten through college, and I've gotten through an officer in the military, and I've gotten through law school, and I'm married, and I have my first child. What else could I possibly need, right? I have this abundant life, and then bam, kind of the bottom falls out. And so that really did reawaken this, I can't do this, I cannot do this alone. Yes, absolutely. And so from that point forward, it was just this God just kind of extending that, extending the rope and just pulling me in closer and closer. I do remember I used to have to travel so at this point I was a lawyer in the Army, and so I would travel from Fort Hood to Waco to Federal District Court. And it was about an hour's drive, and there was a radio show. It was it was called New Life Ministries. It was called New Life Ministries, yes.
Okay.
And so they had this radio show, and it gave me such comfort because they would talk about callers would call in with the problems that life presents, and they just had this very, very sound biblical approach.
Right.
And it just spoke to me. And they had these workshops you could go on. So this had, wasn't Catholic sponsored. Right. I went on a workshop, and and that was helpful. And as I kind of came out of the fog of the divorce and moved forward, I started giving money to this organization because I thought, goodness,
they're doing something.
They're doing something. They are reaching people, and and still give today. So,
yeah, great. And so your faith, in terms of your Catholic faith, was there a connection made at that point, or that developed over the coming years?
Right.
So you kind of always,
I was always going. Besides college, I was always attending church, probably more irregularly than regularly, and then became more regularly attending. And during that period, my mom, she just kept saying, you should probably pursue an annulment. Well, I wasn't ready to pursue an annulment. Everyone else wanted me to pursue an annulment. And really during that period of time, I was just kind of praying I just wanted peace. I wanted to know what the right thing was to do. I had a very hard time just kind of moving on, and it was a few years before I said, okay, God, I give up. I can't do this on my own, and I'm going to go ahead and file for this annulment. And if your church, grants it, then I'm free to move on. And if your church does not, well, I don't know what I was going to do.
Right.
But I'm putting it in your hands. Because at that point in time, it was several years later, and I was, dating who is currently my husband now.
Right.
And he kind of walked that walk with me through this whole experience. And so, and I think, again, that the annulment process, that was healing for me.
Yeah,
it
a
was
lot of people say
healing.
that. Yeah. Well, great. So what brings you to Lexington? Because like you said, you're not from Lexington. So you moved here before the job came open, right? So what brought you? How did you get here? And what's kind of your family situation at this point?
Yeah. So I'm from Connecticut. My husband's from Georgia.
Oh wow.
And there was a job opportunity.
Okay.
He was a lawyer as well, so he was doing immigration law. And there was a job opportunity with the Social Security Administration to be an administrative law judge. And they have openings, all over the United States. But when you get the call, you've got to decide right then and there if you're willing to move to the locations that you said that you were willing to move to. So Lexington came open, and it didn't, we
kind of between the two.
It's pretty much in the middle, right? Yeah. So we thoughtfully considered it and said, let's, we're a military family. We're used to moving. We can do this, and kind of took that leap. And so we came down here. It was about almost a year ago to the date, and I.
Now, were you still active duty at that
So I was a reservist, but I was also,
okay.
I was working part-time for the military academy. Gotcha. West Point was my last active duty station, and then when we left, I continued a relationship with them as a reservist and then as a civilian attorney.
Okay.
So they let me telework, and I was so thankful for that because as a mom of 3, there's not a lot of professional part-time work. So that's what I was doing. And
how old are you? You have 3 daughters?
3 daughters.
How old are they?
So they're 12. Michaela's 12. Margaret is 7, and Molly is 3.
Okay.
So,
all right.
yeah.
And then did you join the parish here?
We joined the parish here. Yeah. So we were parishioners from the start, and there was this ad in the bulletin, and my husband said, "Look at this position here. I think this is something that you would be interested in." And I thought about it and dismissed it. and I didn't have a background per se in advancement.
Right.
So of course I wrote myself off as I'm not qualified. And then it would appear in the bulletin again and again, and maybe every third Sunday he'd say, did you see that in the bulletin?
It's still there.
It's still in the bulletin. And then I said to myself, so again, it was in the back of my mind, and I love people, right? So doing the telework from home was wonderful, but it didn't kind of fill that need,
right.
to interact with people. And so we had a field training exercise with my reserve unit. So I went off to Fort Dix, New Jersey in the middle of January. And it wasn't so bad. Our tents were heated, but it was intense nonetheless. And it was right after that big snowstorm that we had received. But anyway, so I said to myself, while I'm there for 2 weeks, I'm going to really think about this. Because I'm away from family, I'm away from work, I'm away from, I'm kind of in this austere environment. And different set of demands, but my mind is free, right? And I thought, by golly, when I get back, I'm gonna throw my name in the hat. I'm gonna see, test the waters. And that Sunday, the ad was not in the bulletin. And so I just, I reached out to Father Paul and I said, are you still seeking somebody? And he said yes, and so I applied.
All right. And here you are.
And here I am.
So you must have been the right applicant, I guess. Yeah. Well, that's great. So tell me about, looking ahead and in this position as Director of Advancement for the Cathedral Parish. What do you see in the horizon there? What's it looking like for you at this point?
So this is it's an exciting time, I think, to be here, and I feel a sense of just true energy, and it's just so nice. We came from a smaller parish, maybe didn't have as many resources, was probably filled with a lot of cradle Catholics, and here it's just I always think when you get the further south you get, you get that injection of energy from our Protestant brothers and sisters, right? So it's kind of like the best of both worlds coming together. And so, we were just thrilled and excited to see about all the different programs that were ongoing here. But when you look at advancement, and I still have a lot to learn. But I realize, I'm not hired as a fundraiser. Y'all can, Oktoberfest and Big Blue Fling and bake sales and those those happen normal,
Business as usual.
Business as usual. So I don't think anyone needs to hire a professional fundraiser, and when you think of developing, I'm not going to just go out and ask for money, and I'm not here to say these are the things we want to do. Let me help you better understand what we want to do, and then ask for your money. I'm really here to advance with a mission of Christ the King, to say we as a parish, we have a mission to fulfill.
That's right.
And how do I help continue to sustain that excitement and a level of giving that helps us reach our goals?
That's great. I think yes, we're definitely on, and we didn't script this answer here. No, really, we're on a mission here as a parish, trying to transform ourselves to be focused on our mission to form, equip, and send missionary disciples into the world to bring the gospel, the good news to the world. And I think, having you here, I think is just going to help us move that forward. How do we as disciples accomplish that mission? And there's so many aspects to it. It's not a simple answer. We're a big parish. We got a lot of great people. But how do we kind of channel that energy into something that's going to help us accomplish that mission of being an intentionally focused parish on intentional discipleship? So I'm excited that you're here. We've got Kelly, who just started a few days before you in our social outreach ministry. So I agree with you. It's an exciting time to be here at Christ the King. Any other words you want to say to the parish?
Gosh, well, yes, I do. There are so many great resources that are out there, I think, to help us as individuals get a handle on our finances, right? So I know the parish still has a mortgage They still have a debt from the last capital campaign. And I know that there are so many things that we want to do if we didn't have that debt. Like how many more of our parish missions could we, help support if we didn't have this debt? And I know that you and I know that I have the same thing. How many other things do we want to do as individuals and as a family if we didn't have our mortgage, our car payments, credit cards?
Sure.
And unfortunately, when we're living in a time when materialism kind of invades everything that we do, and college debt is crushing us. And so how do we as Catholics, as parishioners, support something that supports us from baptism to death? How do we support our parish family financially when, as individuals, we can barely balance our checkbooks? Right. I mean, there was an article that came out not too long ago that talked about, it was from the Federal Reserve did this survey, and said that we are, most of us are $400 away from going into debt. In other words, if we had a $400 emergency expense, majority of us, I think it was like 49% of us could not cover that unless we borrowed or sold something.
Wow.
That's a rough state of affairs. And not to mention, that's just a distraction from our God-given mission, right? I mean, how can we are so focused on paying the bills week to week. God may be calling us and talking to us, but we can't hear him.
We're distracted.
So there's some really exciting things that I really would like to introduce within the parish to say, hey, let's help ourselves kind of clean up our own financial house and get on more stable ground and live, and be able to decide really to make our money work for us. So look for that in the fall 2016.
All right, very good. Well, Katie, again, welcome to you. And Katie's contact information is certainly in the bulletin, and I know she would love to hear from you. Again, as you see her around the parish, come on up and introduce yourselves and give her a call, email her. She'll take all comers in any way you want to contact her. So again, thanks for sharing your story here, Katie, and it's great to have you on board.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.